So good morning, everyone. My name is Vibha Bhatia, and I represent AgroVision Foundation. So today I'll be hosting and moderating this session on the renewable energy in agriculture. So this informative webinar is organized by AgroVision Foundation, AgroSpectrum, and Indian Federation of Green Energy. So when we talk about renewable energy and farming, they are like a winning combination, a natural fit. So wind, solar, and biomass energy can be harvested forever, providing farmers with a long-term source of income. Renewable energy can be used on the farm to replace other fuels or sold as a cash crop. So in combination with energy conservation practices, can produce their own energy to become even more self-sufficient by reducing external inputs. For instance, many farmers already produce renewable energy by growing corn to make ethanol. An increasing number of farmers are now adding their incomes by harvesting the wind that blows across their land to make electricity. So not only does renewable energy help the farmers save money, it also combats the effective effects of global warming. So keeping this in view, this informative webinar has been designed and it will highlight the experts' perspective. And I'll just start with the introduction. So from AgroVision Foundation, we have Mr. Ravi Baratkar. He is the president, AgroVision Foundation, and publisher, AgroSpectrum and New Food Spectrum. Dr. C.D. Chairman, AgroVision Advisory Committee. Indian Federation of Green Energy, we have Mr. Sanjay Ganju, who is Director General of Indian Federation of Green Energy. So we also have a distinguished panel with us today, and in fundamental sense, they need no introduction. So I'll be very brief, and without further ado, I would like to welcome our distinguished panelists. So we have with us today Shri P.S. Ojha ji. He is a state coordinator and member convener of Uttar Pradesh State Bioenergy Development Board. We have with us Lieutenant Colonel Monish Ahuja. He is a managing director of Punjab Renewable Energy System Private Limited, and is also ex-chairman of Bioenergy FICCI. He is known in the biomass fraternity as a dedicated and knowledgeable leader and recipient of many awards and recognitions. Next, we have Mr. Santosh Raghunath Gondhalekar. He is a managing director of Gangotri Eco Technologies Private Limited and Premove Engineering Private Limited. He has over 30 years of professional experience in energy, agriculture, and water resource management. And he is a member of State Planning Board, and he is also working with various government projects, and he has received many patents in India, European Union, and USA for biogas technologies. Next, Dr. Abhijit Shirke with us. He is the managing director of Shirke Energy. And Dr. Abhijit is an eminent scientist and humanitarian. He is a hardcore innovator and first generation entrepreneur. And he's been working with Ministry of Defense and Indian Railway for Jatropha and castor sapling plantation. He is a member of committee working on use of SVO, that is straight vegetable oils, as fuel. And next we have Dr. Tushar Patil with us. Dr. Tushar Patil is PhD in agriculture from USA, and he has more than 10 years of experience in renewable energy, biofuels, and agriculture development. He is also member of board of study in Pune University and working group of biofuels. And from last 10 years, he's been working with Praj Industries on biofuels from R&D to business development. So presently, he's working as General Manager, Business Development, Advanced Biofuels. And then we also have Mr. Sanjay, like I say, he's also one of the panelists, and he represents IFGE, and he's a Director General. So without delaying this further, I would now like to request Mr. Ravi Baratkar for his opening remarks. Mr. Baratkar.
Yeah, good morning. And greetings from AgroVision and Active and AgriSpectrum. First of all, a warm welcome to all distinguished panelists, my colleague and Dr. C.D. Mai, Sanjay ji. And of course, I also welcome all the attendees. I can see their number going up. Friends, as you all know, it's over a decade now that AgroVision Foundation, under the guidance of Honorable Shri Nitinji Gadkari and Dr. C.D. Mai, is working hard in this region to educate, encourage, and empower farmers. We do annual summit and workshops and conferences, but throughout the year we have been conducting training programs on various topics which we feel are and which farmers feel are necessary for them to educate and to train them better. And one of the subject which was very dear to Honorable Shri Nitin Gadkari is always his talk about this bioenergy and renewable energy. So I think today this topic is very relevant because we all know that during this COVID, all the state electricity boards are literally bleeding. They are bleeding because there is no demand right now, but when the demand suddenly soars up, and I think the major impact can come to the agriculture also, because in agriculture, the major consumption of electricity is there because of the irrigation needs and pumping needs, which they estimate to be the 20 to 30% of the overall demand of the electricity boards. Nevertheless, I will not like to go into the details because that I leave to the experts to talk about. But the some very basic observations which what is required here is that whenever we talk about renewable energy, yes, the solar use is there in much common now in India. It's also getting to the farm sector. The government of India and the state governments are also promoting solar water pumps heavily. It is showing good result, but still a lot needs to be done in that sector. We are also now talking about the bioenergy, the alternate fuel, biofuel, ethanol, that kind of stuff to save on the fossil fuel cost. Ultimately, if we really want to enhance the use of the renewable energy, bring down the cost to the farmers, or see to it that he gets an additional income, then I think what we have to care for is we need to have an economically viable business models, because that is absolutely essential. The success will also depend on whether the new technologies perform effectively and are easily accessible to the farmers. Also, the support, such as the training and capacity building, how it can be made available to the farmers. And most importantly, the major enabling factor always becomes the investment, grants, and subsidies. Because whenever the issue of capital cost comes, the farmers look for subsidies or the grants. With this, I think I will leave it to the panelists to give their expert opinion, and then, of course, we can take more questions and answers, whatever are required. Over to you, Vibha.
Thank you, Mr. Baradkar, for your welcome remarks. Sir, I would like to now first take question or maybe some discussion from Mr. P. Ojha. He has to leave. He has some high level.
रखा है मैंने इन लोगों को हेलो
and sustainable way forward. So your
जी
views on this, sir, and then we also have two questions from participants for you. So if we have time, I'll also ask you.
मैं इसको भेज रहा हूँ, एक लगता है आया हुआ, इसको भेज रहा हूँ.
Mr. Ojha. Mr. Ojha.
Yes, yes.
कह रहे थे आपको तो भी जाना, since you have
जी जी
level meet, and आपने मुझे बताया था कि that the subject that you would like to speak on
हेलो
is agri residues. हाँ सर,
Yes,
प्लीज
yes,
बोलिए,
please.
प्लीज बोलिए सर.
हाँ जी
Agri
हेलो
residues को
हाँ वॉइस क्लियर है मेरी?
हाँ जी बिल्कुल
हाँ
क्लियर,
जी,
प्लीज बोलिए.
यस प्लीज. हम लोग जो यूपी में इस समय बायोमास से बायोकोल और बायो सीएनजी की जो कार्य योजना पे हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं. वैसे तो हमारी जो स्टेट की पॉलिसी थी वो बायोमास से बायो सीएनजी, बायोकोल माने सॉलिड, लिक्विड एंड गैसियस तीनों फ्यूल की बात हम लोग कर रहे हैं. और मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि हम लोगों ने पिछले दिनों 2G एथेनॉल के भी प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन किए और एक ड्रॉप इन फ्यूल का प्रोजेक्ट भी सैंक्शन किया, बट टेक्निकली उसमें कुछ ऐसी अड़चने हैं, कास्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन की प्रॉब्लम है और उसमें पानी की ज्यादा आवश्यकता है. तो इन सारी चीजों को देखते हुए वो भी प्रक्रियागत है. इन द मीन टाइम हम लोगों ने बायोकोल, एग्रीकल्चर रेजिड्यू टू बायोकोल और एग्रीकल्चर रेजिड्यू टू बायो सीएनजी, इस पे मेजर फोकस किया. और मैं इस फोरम को बताना चाहूंगा कि हम लोगों ने प्रदेश में ईंट भट्ठों में 20% कंपल्सरली बायोकोल की बात नोटिफाई कर दिया है. इसमें क्या है कि हमारे जो किसान भाई हैं उनके एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट का भी पैसा उनको इंडस्ट्री एमएसएमई लेवल की जो इंडस्ट्री हमारी लगी है बायोकोल प्रोडक्शन की, उनको मिल जा रहा है। और बायो सीएनजी के बारे में जो मैं बताना चाहूंगा, इसमें स्टेट ने स्टेट सपोर्ट से अब तक हम लोग करीब 7 परियोजनाएं सैंक्शन कर चुके हैं। इसके अलावा कुछ प्राइवेट कारपोरेट इस शर्त के साथ भी हमें लग रहा है करीब 15 के आसपास प्रस्ताव ऐसे होंगे हमारे पास, जिसमें उनका ये कहना है कि साहब हमें प्रेस मड चीनी मिलों का मिल जाए, एग्रीकल्चर रेजिड्यू मिल जाए, तो हम लोग अपना प्लांट लगा लेंगे और जमीन की व्यवस्था हो जाए। तो जमीन की व्यवस्था के बारे में बताना चाहेंगे कि पहले जब इंडस्ट्रियल यूनिट के लिए कोई प्रस्ताव आता था तो जमीन के एक्विजिशन की एक प्रक्रिया होती, तो मैं इस फोरम को बताना चाहूँ लंबी प्रक्रिया होती थी। पता चला कि 4 किसान सहमत हुए देने को, एक रह गया, फिर कोर्ट कचहरी होने लगता था। तभी हम लोगों ने जैसे एक प्राइवेट सेक्टर को सपोर्ट किया मुजफ्फरनगर में, बुढ़ाना में, तो किसानों ने ही अपनी जमीन लीज कर दिया उसको क्लस्टर बना के। और उसमें जो मैकेनिज्म हम लोग, बल्कि इसका एक व्यवस्था भी हम लोग कैबिनेट में भी ले जाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं हम लोग, कि एक एमओयू ऐसा इस्टेब्लिश हो जाए कि वो एमओयू बजाय इंडिविजुअल फार्मर से करने के फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनी नेटवर्क से हो जाए। मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि उत्तर प्रदेश एक पहला ऐसा प्रदेश है जिसमें हम लोग बायोमास कल्टीवेशन पे भी काम कर रहे हैं, बायोमास एग्रीगेशन पे भी काम कर रहे हैं, एंड ऑल आर बीइंग डन बाय द फार्मर्स। इसके लिए हमने 41 जनपदों में 117 फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनियों का गठन करते हुए करीब 60,000 से ऊपर किसानों को नेटवर्क में जोड़ रखा है। तो मैं इस फोरम से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगा कि एनीवन, जैसे अभी हमारे कई कारपोरेट साथी अपना परिचय दे रहे थे, यदि उनका ऐसा कोई प्रस्ताव हो तो एमएसएमई रूट से हमारा जो निवेश मित्र पोर्टल है उस पर आप ऑनलाइन अप्लाई कर दीजिए, और जो भी पॉलिसी लेवल सपोर्ट आपको चाहिए, जैसे हम लोगों ने इंसेंटिव दे रखा है रेवेन्यू इंसेंटिव में, आप यदि जमीन खरीदते हैं तो खरीदने की तो कोई बात ही नहीं है, खरीदते हैं तो स्टैंप ड्यूटी में छूट देंगे हम आपको। लेकिन खरीदने की जगह पे ये 10-5 एकड़ जगह की जरूरत है। इवन अब जैसे वहां जो बुढ़ाना में दिया है, करीब वहां जमीन होगी करीब 15-18 एकड़ के आसपास। अब 18 एकड़ जमीन आज की तारीख में किसी एक किसान के पास नहीं है, या 2 किसान मान लिया करे तो तीसरा एक खड़ा होगा, कहा कि हम नहीं करेंगे साहब इस रेट। लेकिन वहां किसानों ने क्लस्टर बना के सहयोग करके 30 साल का लीज कर दिया उसको, 10-10 साल के 3 टर्म पे। तो मैं ये चाहूंगा कि यूपी ने जो इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं इसमें बायो एनर्जी सेक्टर में, जिसमें कारपोरेट अपना काम करे, किसान अपना काम करे, सरकार अपना काम करे, और तीनों एक चेन में बंधा रहे उसमें, तो इसमें हमें लग रहा है कि इस फोरम को ये अनुरोध करना चाहेंगे। दूसरा जो इंसेंटिव हम लोग स्टेट से प्लान हम लोग दिए हैं, तो रेवेन्यू इंसेंटिव में जैसे स्टैंप ड्यूटी में छूट है, स्टेट शेयर ऑफ जीएसटी में छूट है हमारे यहाँ, जो कोई भी इंडस्ट्री लगेगी उसको 10 साल के लिए छूट दे रखा है फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ कमेंसमेंट ऑफ द बिजनेस, कमर्शियल कमेंसमेंट ऑफ द बिजनेस। भी प्रपोज कर रखी है 10 करोड़ रुपए तक परियोजना पे 25%, 10 करोड़ से ऊपर पे 20%, 100 करोड़ तक, और 100 करोड़ से ऊपर पर 10% या अधिकतम 150 करोड़ रुपए। ये हमारी कार्य योजना है, और इसमें हम ये चाहेंगे कि हम अपने कारपोरेट साथियों से अनुरोध करें कि कोई यदि आपको कार्य योजना में आना है, क्योंकि मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि एनटीपीसी के 4 थर्मल पावर प्लांट यहाँ पे फंक्शनल हैं, और ब्लू स्काई इनिशिएटिव पिछले वर्ष जनवरी में एनटीपीसी ने लागू किया था। दे आर इन सर्च ऑफ, और शायद 6 रुपए 80 पैसे या 6 रुपए 70 पैसे उन्होंने रेट भी तय कर दिए थे बायोकोल के, उनके कुछ स्पेसिफिकेशन थे। और इसके अलावा यूपी में अपने स्वयं के भी करीब 13-14 थर्मल पावर प्लांट हैं। तो हम ये चाहेंगे कि यदि इसमें कोई कारपोरेट आना चाहे तो निश्चित रूप से उसका स्वागत है। दूसरा, हर जिले में 150 से 250 ईंट भट्ठे हैं हमारे यूपी में, तो उसमें 20% बायोकोल की बात आएगी, तो इसमें छोटे प्लांट जैसे 25-30 टन पर डे कैपेसिटी के प्लांट लगाए जा सकते हैं कि जो रोज का रोज कंजम्पशन पूरा हो जाए उसका। तो यही कुछ बात करनी थी विभा जी, और बार बार मीटिंग की कॉल आ रही है, तो मैं फोरम से अनुरोध करूंगा कि मैं ड्रॉप करूं, और आप लोग जो भी एजेंडा पारित करें उसकी कॉपी जरूर रमन जी हमको शेयर करेंगे, विभा जी आप शेयर करेंगे ताकि हम उसके हिसाब से अपना फाइनल करें। ओके, धन्यवाद विराज,
Thank you.
धन्यवाद, थैंक यू, ओके बाय।
Fine. Okay, fine. So now we have Lieutenant Monish Ahuja with us. He is, like I said, he's a managing director of PRE SPL. and he also has a presentation to share. And then we also have one or two questions from the participants, Lieutenant Colonel Ahuja. So that we'll ask you after the, after the end of the session. Vivek, could you please run his presentation?
Thanks, Vibha. If the presentation can come on, and with the time limit, we'll kind of run through it and allow the participants to have more questions if they have on the presentation or otherwise.
Sure, sir.
So till the time technical presentation is over. Yeah, so we in Pressbill, we work in the agri-residue space, and apt to the agenda of this webinar, that's renewable energy in agriculture. We are slightly different. We are doing renewable energy from agriculture. So we utilize all the agri residues which the farmer do not have any economic value for, and this agri residue most of the times is burnt by the farmers in their fields. So we put in a process with capital investment for equipment, resources, training of entrepreneurs in rural India, where we create a skill set of village level entrepreneurs and then empower these entrepreneurs to work for themselves in their own fields, their neighbors' fields, in their district talukas, and ensure that the agri residue which is left after each harvest is not burnt in the fields. The farmers can take it out for an economic value and then create a rural marketplace for them where there is a demand for this agri residue. What we also do uniquely is utilize this for conversion to energy. So we take it in the entire value chain to create energy out of it and sell that energy as a commodity to our clients. So we go through the entire circular economy chain, because once we have generated this energy, what's left is pure carbon ash, which goes back to the fields. So you start from the agriculture crop having a carbon capture in its growth phase, and then we utilize that carbon for energy value and bring back that carbon to the topsoil. So create the entire loop. Kindly go through the presentation slide by slide if it can be run, and we'll try and cover that fast. I told you about Pressbill. Next, please. So this is our 10th year in business. This is a snapshot of where we started in 2011 and where we are in now 2020. We fortunately in this space and this sector, we are currently the market leader in India with 10 years of surviving in this sector, so to say. We have envisaged interest from financial institutions, which we have been able to get on board. So on the left-hand side, bottom of the slide, if you see, we are invested by global private equity funds and a strategic investor in Shell having invested in Pressbill. So we are a Shell affiliate company. So why I'm highlighting this here is if you're able to create a sustainable business model, then there is interest from large global players to look at this market in India and overseas. So it's about doing it with the perseverance and earnest to be able to create the value chain of sustainable energy. And that's where there is huge interest for such kind of business models. Next, please. So we have a strong team. This number's gone up. We have more than 275 plus employees today. Just to mention here, right through the COVID, we have been operating to 100% capacity. We have had no shutdown in business and revenue. It's only our offices out of Mumbai and Delhi where, because of the government advisories, that we are closed. Otherwise, each and every location in rural India or semi-urban industrial areas, all our plants have been operational. We have a strong board. We have representation from our investors, that's responsibility, State Bank of India, NEEV, and Shell on the board. We have independent directors. We have an ex-Secretary Government of India, Shashi Shekharji. He's retired as the Secretary Water Government of India about 2 years ago. We have an ex-director from Hindustan Petroleum, Mr. Sudhakar Rao, and self as the Managing Director. Next, please. So we operate today in India out of Punjab, Haryana, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and we are good to look at any state, any area where we are able to create this value chain. We have grown on the top line of our business in the last 2 to 3 years 6x times. And where we are today and the way we are progressing in the next 2 years, hopefully the way things are going, at least we should be on a 10x time of the growth. So that's the kind of demand that this agri sector linked renewable energy is seeing as a surge across India. Please, next. Next, please. So a snapshot of our presence and the types of agri residue we work around. So we have built a economic model for each of the type of agri residue, how to harness it post harvest, bring it to collection center, warehousing, depot in rural India. So we create that infrastructure as well. And from that warehouse, on a daily basis, just in time, take it to a project which is going to utilize it. There is a paradigm shift over here. Couple of years back, when we spoke about energy, it was only electricity. And that's how the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy used to also recognize it. If you were doing anything else other than producing electricity, then it did not fit in the definition of energy of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Fortunately, in the last 3-4 years, this has seen a paradigm shift and change. And now any form of energy that you can do and qualify it in the RE space. So it could be taking it to biocoal, what Ojaji was saying, so briquettes and pellets, taking it to heat and steam, taking it to electricity, taking it to biofuels in terms of compressed biogas, LPG, second generation ethanol, drop-in fuel, petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, all of it is now part of the definition of energy, and rightfully so. So you can take this in a form where an investment of couple of lakhs going up to an investment of say $200-250 million of projects can be set up utilizing the same agri residue as the base. Next, please. So what do? Our strength of the business is the biomass supply chain management. So any industry which can offtake biomass, once we have aggregated it, we are good to give them a long-term supply contract of that biomass. We also brick it. So we don't pellet currently, but we brick it in multiple locations across India. And this briquette as a commodity for replacement of fossil fuel. So replacement of coal, replacement of furnace oil. We sell it as a commodity to industry. Once the industry for its utilization, it takes these briquettes for their boilers, and we do a forward integration there as well, depending on our client base. We do the entire operation and maintenance of these boilers, provided we as a company handle step 1 and 2. So we handle the biomass, we handle the briquettes. Then we step into an industrial area in a compound. It could be B2B, it could be an industrial zone. We operate the boilers there, so all manpower from Pressfill. We do all maintenance, all repairs. We do the ash handling. And as for the industry, we sell them energy as steam per unit of steam of the quality it is required. Uniquely in this O&M model, the boiler asset is owned by our client. So they are good to hand over their asset to a company like Pressfill. There are other players also in the Indian market who do this as a business model. Now we have forayed ahead, and we also now invest in these boiler assets. The investment could range anything between 10-15 crores going up to 30 crores, and akin to a regular power purchase agreement, which was conventional, we have brought into the market a steam purchase agreement. So we are selling energy as steam, and on a price point where we are giving them a forward price of energy for 10 years, 15 years. And we are able to do that on the strength of the business 1 and 2, that's the supply chain management and the briquettes that we manufacture. So it's local, it is DRE, which is decentralized renewable energy, MNRE on 23rd July 2019 has recognized briquetting and steam, heating and cooling from the steam as RE. So you are doing a renewable energy project. The only thing is you do not have a linkage with the grid or with the government, per to say. It's a business to business kind of an engagement. Lastly, we also do, we have a consulting division. So we do a lot of consulting assignment for state government, central government, large MNCs, public and private corporations who are all looking at the bioenergy segment for various types of projects and investments. Next, please. So why I've mentioned this is what we are able to do in the last decade is get into the forward integration of the business and be able to take 2, 3, 4 years kind of time to stabilize that activity and then grow it. So now that we are growing in all these 4 individual segments that I mentioned, the company and the board has now taken a call to foray into the CNG segment. So utilizing the same biomass which we know how to collect, we are also now moving ahead to set up our first compressed biogas plant. So it gives us the strength to look at projects as a forward integration in the entire value chain. And we can develop it based on the market demand. Next, please. Kindly go ahead. So it's basically each of the locations that we are and what we do, the operation maintenance contract. So next. Yeah, just pause here, please. So if you see now the entire snapshot, it will give you a flavor of the kind of clients that we work with. And you will see that all of them are AAA rated companies. All of them are conscious companies to look at sustainable renewable energy. All of them have long-term vision for the RE and bioenergy segment. So there is a large scope and play for multiple Prespels to come in the Indian market. So you need to have patience, perseverance, a good sound business model to build around it, be able to showcase what is the intent on the ground, and sky's the limit of business to do. India has 500 million metric tons of agri residue, which we burn in the fields every year. That's the quantum. And currently, if you look at a pan-India utilization, it is not even 1%. You are looking at a business for the next 15, 20 years, which is going to see huge jumps and growth in the Indian market. Next, please. Next. So activities are pre and post harvest, and maybe offline, if somebody wants more details, you can visit our website or you can contact us, and some member from my team will definitely engage to give you more insights. Next. Yeah. So when you look at a supply chain management model, and this is the mainstay of any bioenergy based business, what's important to understand is besides the project, there is also going to be considerable investment outside the plant boundary. So either the project invests it or a supply chain management company like ours makes the investment. So if you have to do, and this slide shows the conventional 10 megawatt biomass IPP equivalent of 100,000 metric tons, 110,000 metric tons per annum, then there is an investment of $3 million which is required outside the project boundary to be able to do the supply chain management. So somebody has to invest this 24, 25 crores outside for the sustainability part of such a project. And somehow this has been the missing link in all the biomass based projects that we have done in our country. And that's why the sector faced the challenges. And where we came in 10 years back, we found this to be a problem area. So we said, let's address the problem area. And if we are able to do this, definitely the follow-on projects will come. And I think now with the multiple projects we are doing, the financial institutions, the investors, the project proponents, the off-takers, our clients, all of them are very confident that when a project of this kind comes, it will be sustainable because they are starting right from with the farmer and from the field. And that's the sustainable part. Next, please. So the first slide talked about all the straw varieties, rice straw, wheat straw, sugarcane trash, where you need to bale. And if you see this slide, outside the plant boundary, we create 740 to 750 jobs annualized. So the number of jobs are more, number of people are more, but I have divided it by 365. So 750 jobs outside the project and where people are working for themselves in certain skill sets. And what do they get out of it? If you look at the money which goes back, and we as a company pay 100% only through the banking channel. So the financial inclusion is there, the women empowerment is there, the sustainable development goals, all of them fit to the T. We are paying back close to about $2,500 or equivalency of about ₹1,00,000 per person to this 740 people on an annual basis. If you look at the agriculture that a farmer does, and per acre, per farmer, per year, and 2 crops going good, 40 to 60,000 rupees is what they earn. And here is an individual in that same rural area, by not doing agriculture and just managing the waste around agriculture, is earning more. So that's the kind of shift which needs to come. Prime Minister has been saying, Annadata se Urja Data. How is the Annadata going to become the Urja Data? If you bring the RE in agriculture, that's how he's going to become the Urja Data, and that's exactly what we are showing. Next, please. So the similar model on the stock varieties, cotton stock, Juliflora stock, lentil stocks, corn cob, corn stover, the investment is lower, say about $1.25 million. Next. However, the spread is wider. So instead of about 740, 750 jobs, here you have about 1400 plus jobs. And since the quantum of jobs are doubled, the per capita money going is half, so about $1,000. So that's also a yardstick where you can say the equivalent amount of money is getting spread over a larger population base. Next. So how do we work? So if you look at the center line in this slide, that's the process where from the farmers, the biomass moves to a project or a plant. What you see on the top half of this slide is something which we do in the pre-harvest time. And this engagement in a geographical area, say about a 50 to 70 kilometer radius, typically happens 12 to 18 months before a harvest season. So we need to go into a geographical area, sensitize the people, get our VLEs on board, get their training happening, get the equipment in place, get the banking arrangements in place, and then actually start working in the harvest season. And what you see in the bottom slide is actually what the Prespal employees do, the management of this ecosystem. So we create the ecosystem, we monitor the ecosystem, but the ecosystem is the local people, the farmers and the VLEs themselves. And if they earn working for themselves, there is a drive to do more, because at the end of the day, the more that they aggregate and deliver to the collection center, the more they get paid. So the entire chain is auto functioning. Next. So there are a whole lot of social and financial benefits. We can talk more about it offline. I can request people to write to us. We can quantify each of this. Just to say that our financial and strategic investors, plus many financial institutions that we are engaged with, audit all of this. So there is a social audit which is done, and that's also a basis of the impact investment that we are seeing in this space. So there are institutions who want to invest where you make an effect to society at large, to the bottom strata of the society at large. And if that you are being able to do and quantify and deliver, then I don't think there is any dearth of financial institutions to fund these kind of activities. Next. this is a snapshot of what we have done in about last 7-8 years, and what type of revenue money has gone back into the system, and where all what is the carbon footprint reduction, how many VLEs, what type of money has gone back. This is there as a snapshot. Next, please. Fortunately, as Vibha had mentioned initially, since the business model is such that it kind of fits to the T to the requirements, we have been continuously awarded in multiple national and international forums. And to my surprise, one day in the morning, I was tagged on a tweet to get the Business Leader Award in Sustainable Development by a 30-country consortium as part of the mission innovation. So what it meant, which I learned later, was that this is a model which these 30 countries want to take to their geographies and grow it there. And the Department of Biotechnology had chosen us and taken it there. And fortunately, we got that award as well. Next, please. So we are a very strong team. We also take something a pride in. So we are actual Jai Jawan Jai Kisan team. All the top key management of our company are ex-defense people, ex-Fauji's, and we have been able to put some method to the madness in what we need to do in this business. So we have I have a bunch of colleagues of mine from my army days who have been kind enough to join this business, believe in this business, and they handle various aspects of our business. So we have the CEO who looks at supply chain management. We have the chief technical officer who looks at each of the technology aspects of the business, be it briquetting, be it steam as energy, be it electricity, be it compressed biogas, or the 2G ethanol projects, and so on and so forth. Next. I think we are through with the presentation. That's the team, a very strong, robust team. I think we are open for questions now or later as the moderator would like to decide. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vibha, Vibha, hello.
Sir, one second. Yes, Doctor.
I would like to leave early. There are another meeting.
Okay.
I have nothing much to say. Actually, I congratulate Mr. Ahuja. I would like to just ask him one question, because that itself will my interaction with him. That there are lots of alternate uses of all these biomass. Particularly in cotton, we have developed what we call it as softwood, ply board management. We are preparing boards also. In Nagpur, we have a pilot plant also. And now there are people who are coming, particularly if it are straws and then sugarcane bagasse, and then these are all used. Did you find the economy in terms of briquetting or pelleting against the making of a plywood? Because there we are saving a lot of wood material now, which is used for plywood making. So I think that softwood, which we have developed, ply technology at Bombay, Matunga Institute, is now picking up very well. What is your comparison between this that technology and now briquetting? Because briquetting also is very popular here. Pelleting, briquetting, around Nagpur there are small units. But I find that a larger unit, like making something which is very solid and can compete with utilization of wood. What is your opinion?
Thanks for the question. So as I said, there are a plethora of usages for this agri-residue biomass. And we as a company are open to look at each one of them, provided at the sale side, it makes good economic sense from a long-term perspective. So we are good to get into doing plyboard. We are good to get into doing biochemicals out of it. And when we engage with everybody. But the start point has to be, because you need to get a financial institution to come and say, okay, I'm prepared to fund 70% in this. And that's the biggest challenge in the Indian economy today. The second part is, because it is agri-residue based, even if you collect it, it is something which a banking system does not recognize as a raw material. So how does somebody fund working capital for it? The third challenge is, the banking system recognizes the working capital on a 1+1 basis. 1 month of a cycle, 1 month of a receivable. At best, 2 plus 1 or 1 plus 2. So at best 3 months. And here you are dealing with agri residue, which you are going to collect, store it for 6 to 8 months, allow it for the natural degradation and utilize it going onwards. So even today, for a company like Prespel, having the kind of financial institutions, including State Bank of India, taking equity in the company, I do not have working capital available, including from State Bank of India. And it's a question to ask, and ask the policymakers, ask the politicians and bureaucrats, how are you going to develop billions of dollars of this kind of a RE economy if the banking system is not going to support it? So those are challenges of this industry. So if you ask me to get into a plyboard, then I would be making one industry and one plyboard, and that would be the end of the lifespan of Prespel. But what we have attempted to do is broaden the base, being as a credible supplier to get you the biomass, and where we find a value of a long-term basis, 5, 10, 15 years, get into it ourselves. So all that we have got into, and the multiple models, is where we have contracts with our clients for a period of 10 years, 15 years. And then the banking system says, oh, yeah, what's a Pepsi doing in this? What's a Cipla Sun Pharma doing in this? It doesn't make sense. And when they talk to these companies, then they say, okay, let's start looking at it. So it's been a tough journey. It's not been that we have got into the field and we have got money to do it. Today in our 10th year and being the market leaders, and hopefully we intend to maintain this, we have gone through the grind. And the message is, people who want to look at it, kindly be prepared to go through the grind. Have the patience of 5, 7, 10 years, and then only you'll be able to do this. It's not going to come that government or these companies are going to give you money to set up these industries. None of them are going to do it.
Thank you very much, Ahuja.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We'll maybe discuss upon this because a lot of people has asked for the same question. So maybe at the end we'll again ask them to ask various questions on the breaking process.
Vibha, may I go now because I have another meeting?
Sure.
I have another meeting.
Dr. Mai, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I would like to now leave because I have another meeting there on the web. Okay?
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. So I will go on mute now. And
Sure. Thank you very much. I'll come back to you. There are a lot of questions for you. So, Dr. Abhijit, since you have been in this field for long, so the one question that I've got from one of the participants for you is how farmers are going to be benefited by adopting RE, that renewable energy for agriculture.
Start? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry? We can.
या आवाज आ रही है हमारी?
बिल्कुल आ रही है सर, प्लीज बोलिए।
आप सभी का स्वागत है। आज भारत में रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के ऊपर हम बात करने जा रहे हैं और मैं आप सभी से हमारी राष्ट्रभाषा में ही बात करना चाहूँगा क्योंकि ज़्यादातर लोग 90% हमारी खुद की जो मातृभूमि की भाषा है उससे अवगत होते हैं। तो मेरे दोस्तों, मेरे प्यारे किसान भाइयों और नई आने वाली पीढ़ियों, आपका स्वागत है रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में। आज के इस दौर में हर कोई देख रहा है कि हमें अपॉर्चुनिटी की जरूरत है और अपॉर्चुनिटी ढूंढने के लिए हम यहाँ वहाँ देख रहे हैं क्या हमें अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल सकती है रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी से। तो मुझे आपको सबको बताते हुए बड़ा हर्ष है। मैं खुशी के साथ आपको कहना चाहता हूँ कि आने वाला जो दौर है 10 साल से 15 साल या 20 साल, यकीनन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी किसानों के लिए एक बड़ा, जिसे हम कहेंगे प्रवेश द्वार है, गेटवे। आप कहेंगे ऐसे कैसे? किसान जो है हमारा आज 80% गांव में है। गांव में बैठा हुआ किसान जो है उसके पास कोई भी अपॉर्चुनिटी। मैं किसान का बेटा हूं, इसीलिए मुझे पूरी तरह से आपकी समस्याओं जो है वो अवगत है। और इस समय रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में काम करते समय हमारा किसान भाई कार्य कैसे करेगा, काम कैसे करेगा। चलो हम भारत की बात करते हुए पूरे विश्व को भी देखते हैं कि क्या विश्व है और क्या भारत है। विश्व में कुल मिला के 195 देश है और 195 देश में भारत एक है। और भारत हमेशा अपनी आइडेंटिटी एक कृषि प्रधान देश के रूप में विश्व के सामने रखता आया है। ऐसे समय पे आज हमें ये प्रश्न हमारे सामने खड़ा है कि हम हमारे बच्चों के लिए आगे का भविष्य क्या कर सकते हैं, हमारे खुद के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को हम किस तरह से आगे लेके जा सकते हैं। मैं आपको तनिक एक 50 से 100 साल पीछे लेके जाना चाहता हूं, जहां ब्रिटिश जब इस भारत में नहीं थे, या ब्रिटिश जब भारत में आए, हमारी आजादी तक का दौर क्या था भारत में। यहाँ पे लकड़ियां जो है चूल्हे में जलाई जाती थी, यहाँ पे लकड़ियों से जो है अग्नि प्रज्वलित किया जाता था, उससे खाना बनाया जाता था। जो भी हमारी जीवन की जिसे दैनंदिनी कहेंगे वो उस लकड़ी से, उस बायोमास से बन जाती। आज पुनः हमें हमारे बैक हिस्ट्री में जाके देखने की जरूरत है। आपको बताते हुए मुझे इस समय ताज्जुब है, ताज्जुब इसलिए कहूंगा कि हमें हमारी ही बातों का ज्ञान अवगत करके देने की जरूरत है। कहा जाता है मातृभूमि एक ऐसी चीज है कि जहां पे, जिसको भूमि हम कहते हैं, भारत विशाल देश है, ईस्ट नॉर्थ वेस्ट सभी प्रकार के रीजनों में भारत एकमेव ऐसा देश विश्व में है कि जहां पे सभी प्रकार की क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन अवेलेबल है। यहाँ पे रेगिस्तान है, यहाँ पे बर्फीली पहाड़ियां हैं, यहाँ पे प्लेन्स है, यहाँ के समंदर की तरह सतह है, सभी प्रकार का टेम्परेचर 0 डिग्री से लेके हम कहते हैं 40 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक इस देश के अंदर है। जहां तक मेरा तजुर्बा है, अमेरिका से लेके जापान तक हमने बायोमास की इंडस्ट्री में काम किया है और बायोमास के फार्मर को भी बहुत नजदीक से देखा है। आज मेरा आप लोगों से अनुरोध यही रहेगा कि हम लोग आज इस वेबिनार में क्या देखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। तो अभी हम वेबिनार में ये देखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि क्या रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी हमारे लिए आने वाले पल में अपॉर्चुनिटी बन सकता है क्या। चलो दुनिया की थोड़ी सैर करते हैं मेरे यारों। यूरोप जो है उसने कहा है 2030 तक हमें हमारे पूरे यूरोप खंड को या यूरोपियन यूनियन को रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में बनाना है। अब यहां से अगर मुझे कुछ बना के यूरोप में भेजना है तो ये पॉसिबल नहीं है। क्यों नहीं है? एक तो पहली बात, यहां से 7 से 8 हजार किलोमीटर का मेरा मार्केट है। 10,000 किलोमीटर तक मैं कैसे कुछ भेज पाऊंगा? पॉसिबल ही नहीं। अगर हम लोग किसी शिप में जा डाल देते हैं या किसी बोट में डालेंगे तो उसका भाड़ा इतना हो जाएगा कि कहते हैं 4 आने की मुर्गी और 12 आने का मसाला। तो मेरा प्रोडक्ट भारत का जो है वो यूरोप में कैसे बिका जाएगा? ये मैंने इसके ऊपर कई बार अध्ययन किया। तो क्या ये ब्रिकेट या बायोमास को मोड़ा जा सकता है या इसके फॉर्म बनाए जा सकते हैं या इसका जो स्वरूप है इसे बदली किया जा सकता है? क्योंकि हमें अगर पूरे विश्व में हमारे प्रोडक्ट को पहुंचाना है तो हम कैसे पहुंचाएंगे? रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी में काम करते समय कई सारे मेरे सहयोगियों ने, कई सारी कंपनियां बहुत अच्छा कार्य कर रही है कि जिन्होंने इसके ऊपर से नई नई खोज की है, ब्रिकेट बनाए हैं, पैलेट्स बनाए हैं। किसानों तक गए 10 साल में गवर्नमेंट के माध्यम से भी कई सारी अपॉर्चुनिटी पहुंची। लेकिन जहां पे खेती है वहां पे मार्केट अवेलेबल नहीं है। अगर मान लीजिए भारत का, आज मैं पुणे से बात कर रहा हूँ, मुंबई से बात कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे बायोमास के रिक्वायरमेंट जो है वो स्टीम बॉयलर के लिए होती है, वो जलाने के लिए हो सकती है, हो सकता है किसी फैक्ट्री में पावर जनरेशन करने के लिए होती है। किंतु ये जहां पे बायोमास बनता है वो एरिया जो है वो पुणे से, मुंबई से काफी दूर है। अगर हम रोजगार की बात करें, मध्य प्रदेश है, उत्तर प्रदेश है, भारत के विभिन्न जो प्रदेश कहेंगे या हमारे 7 सिस्टर्स है, बाम्बू वहां पे बहुत लार्ज स्केल के ऊपर अवेलेबल है, मणिपुर में है, इम्फाल में है। अगर हम कोई भी सिटी से बाहर जब उड़ते हैं हवाई जहाज से तो हमें दिखाई पड़ता है 50-100 किलोमीटर होने के बाद सारी जमीन जो है वो बंजर पड़ी। आज भारत अगर कृषि प्रधान देश से सही मायने में सोचे तो हम इतना बायोमास उगा सकते हैं, इतनी प्लांटेशन को ग्रो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन उसको बेचना कहाँ है? कैसे बेचेंगे? शायद हो सकता है कि मेरे इस बात से भी आप कहीं ना कहीं रूबरू होते हो। अगर शायद आपने आपके खेतों में अंदर मेज लगाया है या नेपियर ग्रास लगाया या गाजर ग्रास लगाया है या हो सकता है किसी ने बाम्बू लगाया, आप कहेंगे साहब मेरे पास तो बाम्बू पड़ा है, इसको कहाँ बेचे? अब बात है कि अगर आप मार्केट से 5 से 7 हजार किलोमीटर दूर हो तो ऐसे समय पे आपका बाम्बू मार्केट में नहीं पहुंच सकता, क्योंकि पहुंचते पहुंचते उस बाम्बू का वजन, उसकी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट उसकी सप्लाई चेन ये प्रॉपर नहीं बैठती। हमारे सामने क्या विकल्प है? हमारे सामने हो सकता है इथेनॉल है, हमारे सामने हो सकता है सीएनजी का विकल्प है, हमारे सामने हो सकता है ब्रिकेटिंग या पैलेटिंग का। आज सही मायने में जितने भी आज ब्रिकेटिंग के प्लांट है, पेलेटिंग के प्लांट है, आप उनसे पूछो तो आपको वो सही उत्तर दे पाएंगे कि जितनी मात्रा में डिमांड चाहिए उतनी मात्रा में डिमांड उनके पास अवेल नहीं होते, क्योंकि मार्केट उनसे दूर है। तो इसी दृष्टि को, इसी पॉइंट को हमने बहुत बारीकी से अध्ययन किया और हमने ये सोचा क्या हम रियली भारत की इकोनॉमी को बायोमास इकोनॉमी या ग्रीन इकोनॉमी बना सकते हैं। तो कई सालों तक अध्ययन करने के बाद मेरे देशवासियों, हम इस नतीजों के पर पहुंचे हैं कि हमने किसी भी लकड़ी का हम तेल निकालते हैं। जी हाँ, किसी भी लकड़ी का या किसी भी बायोमास का हम तेल निकाल सकते हैं, क्योंकि मेरा उद्देश्य ये है और हमेशा रहा है, क्या मैं भारत का जितना भी मेरा किसान वर्ग है इनका बना हुआ माल जो है वो एक्सपोर्ट कर सकता हूं। आज की हमारे एग्रीकल्चर की अगर पोजीशन देखी जाए, मैं जिस एरिया से बिलोंग करता हूँ वो शुगर केन का बेल्ट है। शुगर केन गए साल का यहाँ पे शुगर अभी अवेलेबल है, जिसको कहते हैं गए साल का बफर स्टॉक अवेलेबल है। नया क्रॉप जो है वो अभी दशहरे से आना शुरू हो जाए। ऐसे समय पे हमारे किसान भाइयों को ये पता नहीं कि हम शुगर केन की खेती करें या ना करें। कॉटन जो बनता है, कॉटन में से हमारा जो देश है कॉटन में सेकंड नंबर पे आता है। ये प्रोडक्शन करता है, आज भेजने जाओ तो चाइना को हमको बेचना नहीं। आज अगर वो काश्तकार जो है जो कॉटन लगा रहा है, अगर उसका मार्केट नहीं उसे मिलेगा तो वो करेगा। एक तो शुगर केन के फार्मर के सामने सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम। दूसरा बात, हमारा जो कमर्शियल प्राइस की आप क्रॉप कहेंगे वो है कॉटन, उसके भी आगे क्या होने वाला है ये हर एक किसान को चिंता है। तीसरा है राइस। अगर हम राइस की बात करें तो हमारे से सस्ता तो श्रीलंका दे रहा है। यदि आपको इस बात की अनुमान नहीं है तो मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ, आज श्रीलंका अपने देश से, मतलब श्रीलंका से बाकी देशों को 6 रुपए में राइस पर किलो दे रहा है। यहाँ पे ब्रिकेट लेने जाए तो ब्रिकेट 5 रुपए में मिलती है। आप सोचिए कि राइस ब्रिकेट से सस्ता है। कई सारे ऐसे देश है कि 3 रुपए 3.5 रुपए इंडियन रुपीज में राइस टुकड़ा, राइस खराब हुआ या फेंका हुआ राइस अवेल करते हैं। आज जीने के लिए कोई भी फार्मर किसी भी हद तक मटेरियल को सेल करने के लिए तैयार है, क्योंकि उसको मार्केट नहीं दिखाई देता। अब मैंने ये सोचा कि मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए मैं क्या कर सकता हूं, मेरे किसान भाइयों के लिए और बच्चों के लिए क्या कर सकता हूं। तब हमने एक चीज की खोज निकाली जिसको कहा जाता है पैरालिसिस ऑयल। अब मैं उस मुद्दे के ऊपर आता हूं कि किसी भी बायोमास से हम हमारे जंगल में, हमारे खेतों में वो बायोमास को कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं क्या? तो उस बायोमास से क्या हम तेल निकाल सकते हैं? मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल के लिए दिखाता हूं। ये टुकड़े हैं बायोमास के, किसी भी प्रकार का बायोमास, अगर नेपियर ग्रास बोलो, गाजर गवत ले लो, या किसी भी प्रकार का वुड जो हम एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट कहेंगे, जो खेतों के अंदर हम बनाते हैं। और ये खेतों के अंदर बनाया हुआ वेस्ट है। इस वेस्ट को यदि मुझे किसी भी कंपनी तक अगर मुझे भेजना है या उसकी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन करनी है, तो इसकी वेट की वजह से वो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट ही उसका अधिकतर जो पैसा है वो खा लेता। अब ये छोटे छोटे जो पीसेस है बायोमास के, ये तो किसी श्रेडर से बन जाते हैं। अब ये बनाने के बाद इसका हमें तेल निकालना है। आप कहेंगे तेल कैसे निकालेंगे? जो पैरालिसिस प्रोसेस हम लोगों ने डेवलप की है, मेरे किसान भाइयों और मेरे दोस्तों, मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं, इस पैरालिसिस प्रोसेस में इस बायोमास को उस पैरालिसिस प्लांट में डाला जाता है जो मोबाइल प्लांट है। वो प्लांट के अंदर डालने के बाद विद इन अ मिनट, 1 मिनट के अंदर जो ये बायोमास जो है, इन एब्सेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, इसे कोई भी ऑक्सीजन नहीं दिया जाता है, पूरी तरह से क्लोज सिस्टम में इस बायोमास से 700 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक इसको टेम्परेचर दिया जाता है। और टेम्परेचर देने के बाद ये जो बायोमास है वो गैस में कन्वर्ट होता है, और गैस में कन्वर्ट हुआ बायोमास जो है वो ऑयल में कन्वर्ट होता है। और आपको इस प्रकार का जो ऑयल है, गाढ़ा ऑयल पूरी तरह से मिलता है, जिसे हम कहते हैं क्रूड ऑयल। क्रूड ऑयल मिलता है, और किसी भी प्रकार की हम कहेंगे बायोमास से जो जलता है वो बायोमास हो सकता है। आपके पास जिसे हम कहेंगे कांग्रेस ग्रास है, जिसको लोकल लैंग्वेज में कांग्रेस कहा जाता है, अंग्रेजी में उसको पार्थिनियम कहा जाता है, पार्थिनियम ग्रास कहा जाता है। या किसी भी प्रकार का घास आपके खेतों के साइड में है, जंगलों के अंदर के पत्ते हैं। हमें पता है हमारे देश के अंदर हर साल आग लगती है, फायर लगती है, फॉरेस्ट जल जाते हैं। और ऐसे जले हुए फॉरेस्ट के अंदर हमारा जो नेचर का जो नुकसान है वो होता रहता है। वो पत्ते भी हमें, अगर हमारे जो बेरोजगार युवक है उनको भी कहे भाई पत्ते जमा करो, और उस पत्ते को एक मशीन में अगर आप डाल देते पायरोलिसिस प्लांट के अंदर, तो इस पायरोलिसिस प्लांट से आपको ऑयल मिलता है। ये कितना मिलता है? यदि आपके पास 100 किलो ड्राई बायोमास है, 100 किलो ड्राई पत्ते हैं, 100 किलो ड्राई हम कहेंगे गवत है, या उसे हम कहेंगे घास है, इस घास से या बांबू से भी किसी भी प्रकार की एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट, रूट्स, प्लांट्स के उसी किसी भी प्रकार के प्लांट के अवशेषों से हम ऑयल निकाल सकते हैं, उसके वेट के 50%। आप कहेंगे 50%? जी हाँ, 50%। यदि आपका बायोमास का वेट 100 किलो है तो उसमें से हम 50% ऑयल, यानी कि 50 किलो ऑयल निकाल सकते हैं, जिसे हम क्रूड ऑयल कहते हैं। ये ऑयल जो है काले कलर का गाढ़ा ऑयल होता है, ये फुल्ली ऑटोमेटिकली प्लांट के अंदर निकलता है, और जिसकी वजह से एक फॉर्म रेडी हो गया कि जहां से किसान भाई 500, 1000, 5000 किलोमीटर क्या 10,000 किलोमीटर तक ये बना बनाया ऑयल भेज सकते हैं। इसकी शेल्फ लाइफ साल, 2 साल, 5 साल, 10 साल तक भी इसे कुछ नहीं होता। मैं तो कहूंगा उसको 100 सालों तक तो कुछ नहीं होता। आप कहेंगे ऐसे कैसे? आप इतनी गारंटी के साथ कैसे कह रहे हैं कि एग्रीकल्चर का एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट कि जो बनने के बाय प्रोडक्ट बनने के बाद वो खराब नहीं होता? तो मैं आप सबको बताना चाहता हूं मेरे दोस्तों, यदि आप किसान हो या आपको एग्रीकल्चर का थोड़ा बहुत अनुमान या नॉलेज हो, तो आपके पास कोई भी उड़ का, जिसे हम कहेंगे कोई पीस गिरा है, काट के कोई पेड़ है जिसको काट दिया आपने, और वही आपके आंगन में आपके घर के पास है, हो सकता है 1 साल, 2 साल, 10 साल, 50 साल से, वो खराब नहीं होता, वो वैसे की वैसा रहेगा। और वो आप 50 साल के भी बाद देखोगे तो उसके ऊपर आप जाके आराम से बैठ सकते हो, वो प्रकृति में एब्सॉर्ब नहीं होता। क्या कारण है इसका? तो मैं आपको वो बताना चाहता हूं कि इस बायोमास के अंदर एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण चीज है जिसका नाम है लिग्निन और एरोमेटिक कंपाउंड। ये जो है उस प्रोडक्ट को प्रिजर्व करते हैं, और प्रिजर्व करने के बाद ये उड़ या लकड़ी एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट है कि जो दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा स्ट्रांग है। मैं मेरी बात को रिपीट कर रहा हूं, जो दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा स्ट्रांग है, सो सबसे ज्यादा समय तक नेचर में, जिसे हम कहते हैं कि टिकाऊ रह सकता है। और इस गुणधर्म से या इस प्रॉपर्टी की वजह से ये जो बायोमास है आज हमारे हाथ में सोना है। मैं यकीनन कह रहा हूं कि हमारे हाथ में सोना है और हम सोना हमारे खेतों में उगा सकते हैं। आप कहते रहेंगे यार क्या बात कर रहे हैं डॉक्टर साहब, हमारे हाथ में सोना है, यहाँ बीच में बेकरी को जाओ तो उसको कोई खरीदता नहीं, हमारे किसान भाई उसको आग लगा देते और कहते हैं कि भाई इसको जलाना है, मेरे लिए जलाना है। तो मैं आपको कुछ हिस्ट्री के जो है दाखिले देना चाहूंगा। आपको पता है पहला जो एयरक्राफ्ट बनाया गया था वो लकड़ी से बनाया गया था। पहला इंजन का जो पिस्टन बनाया गया था वो लकड़ी से बनाया गया था। लकड़ी उसमें यूज की थी इंजन के पिस्टन में। तो आप सोचिए कितना स्ट्रांग रहेगा लकड़ी का जो प्रॉपर्टी है वो। इतना ही नहीं, इसके अलावा लकड़ी से गाड़ियां बनाते थे पहले, टांगे चलते थे। अगर आप सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में चले जाओ तो इस लकड़ी से गाड़ियां चलती थी गैसिफिकेशन से। यदि ये बात है तो हम कहां हैं? इसका मतलब हमें नॉलेज नहीं है, इसका मतलब दुनिया हमसे कुछ छिपा के कार्य कर रही है, इसका मतलब हमारे पास सोने के खान है लेकिन हम उसका उपयोग नहीं कर रहे। ये आपके मन में आता रहेगा। तो चलो मैं आपको थोड़ा और आगे बताता हूं कि आज ज्ञान ही सब कुछ है और नॉलेज इज द पावर। मेरे दोस्तों मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि बायोमास के माध्यम से हमने जो टेक्नोलॉजी बनाई है उस बायोमास से गैसिफिकेशन करके ऑयल बनाया जाता है। जो ऑयल आप ड्रम में भर के केमिकल कंपनियों को दे सकते हैं, एविएशन के प्लांट या जिसे हम कहेंगे रिफाइनरी है उस रिफाइनरी को दे सकते हैं। उसके बाद जो उसका बाय प्रोडक्ट बनता है उस बाय प्रोडक्ट को कहते हैं एक्टिवेटेड चारकोल, इससे मेडिसिन बनती है। और कई सारे प्रोडक्ट जैसे टायर हो गया, रोड हो गए, बायोबेस कपड़े हो गए, उसके बाद नैनो फाइबर हो गया, कार्बन फाइबर हुआ, इसका सबका रॉ मटेरियल है बायोमास। इतना ही है क्या? तो बिल्कुल नहीं। ये जो बायोमास है इसके अलावा जो ऑयल बनता है उस ऑयल से पूरी दुनिया हम बना सकते हैं। मैं आपसे जो कह रहा हूं वो पूरी छाती ठोक के और विश्वास के साथ, पूरे कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ कह रहा हूं, क्योंकि उतना रिजल्ट और उतना रिसर्च हमने किया है। आज इतना ही है कि भारत में बैठ के इतनी बातें कर रहे हैं, हमने नीदरलैंड में जाके इसका रिसर्च किया, नीदरलैंड की कंपनियों के साथ रिसर्च किया, वहां के प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने इस रिसर्च को एक टॉप मोस्ट रिसर्च बताया है विश्व का, कि जो बायोमास से पूरी जितनी भी हमारी इंडस्ट्री है उसको हम बदलाव में ला सकते हैं। तो आपको मैं बताना चाहता हूं कि बायोमास का बिजनेस, हमें इतना ही पता है कि बायोमास से क्या हम पेलेट बना सकते हैं, ब्रिकेट बना सकते हैं, या बायोमास के हम जो भी ड्राई स्वरूप है उसी तरह से उसको लेके मार्केट कर सकते हैं। मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं, किसी भी प्रकार का बायोमास हो सकता है। आपके पास खराब गेहूं है, हो सकता है खराब ज्वार है, हो सकता है ड्राई आपके पास एग्रीकल्चर के फ्रूट्स होते हैं उसके वेस्ट हैं। आप किसी भी प्रांत में, किसी भी स्टेट में भारत के हो, सेवन सिस्टर्स में हो, हिमालय में हो, उत्तराखंड में हो, उत्तर प्रदेश में हो, आप आपका मटेरियल प्रिजर्व करके उसके पीसेस बना के उसको प्रोसेस करके दुनिया के तमाम मार्केट तक भेज सकते हो, उसको कन्वर्ट कर सकते हो। देखिए, एनर्जी का एक ना नियम है जिसे कहा जाता है एनर्जी नाइदर क्रिएटेड नॉर बी डिस्ट्रॉयड। ऊर्जा ना निर्माण की जा सकती है ना नष्ट की जा सकती, उसको एक फॉर्म में हम दूसरी फॉर्म को उसको परिवर्तित किया जा सकता है। यदि ये बात है तो हमारे किसान भाइयों के पास जो खेतों में आज क्रॉप है वो बिक नहीं रहा है। वो किसान, बारिश आ जाती है तो हाय राम, मेरा क्रॉप जो था वो पूरा खत्म हो गया, सत्यानाश हो गया, क्या करूं मैं उस क्रॉप का। मेरे भाई, डरने की जरूरत नहीं, उस क्रॉप को सुखाओ। उस क्रॉप को जो भी है, अगर परेली है, राइस है, या कॉटन का स्ट्रॉ है, कॉटन नहीं आया तो उसे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, कॉटन के स्ट्रॉ के इतने पैसे बनेंगे कि जितने कॉटन के नहीं बनते। कॉटन के स्ट्रॉ से आप बायोमास के बाकी प्रोडक्ट्स बना सकते हैं। और प्रोडक्ट बनाने के बाद ये जो ऑयल है ये कौन लेगा, इसको क्या बनेगा इसका। तो मेरे भारत के सभी तमाम भाइयों को, बहनों को मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं, इस ऑयल से हमने दुनिया बनाई है। ये जो बायोमास का ऑयल है, इस बायोमास का क्रूड ऑयल से हमने एविएशन फ्यूल बनाया है। वी प्राउड टू बी इंडियन, हमने एविएशन का फ्यूल बनाया है और उसके 100% रिजल्ट आए हैं।
Thank you.
यदि
We
हम
have a lot of
एविएशन का फ्यूल बनाएंगे,
Yes, thank you. I'm saying we have a lot of questions for you also. So we will also these questions at the end of the program.
कंक्लूड।
Yes.
इस एविएशन के फ्यूल से हीट नहीं, इससे कैटालिटिकल कन्वर्जन करके हमने डीजल बनाया है, पेट्रोल बनाया है। स्मॉल प्लांट्स भी इसके जो है 2-2 टन के किसानों के लिए इस समय उपलब्ध है। अब इसकी हम शुरुआत कैसे कर सकते हैं? हम ग्राम पंचायत है या किसानों के बायोमास के छोटे छोटे ग्रुप से, कोऑपरेटिव है, इनके माध्यम से भी 5 किसान, 10 किसान, 50 किसान छोटे छोटे प्लांट डाल सकते हैं। क्योंकि जो प्लांट बनाए गए हैं उसकी जो प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी है मिनिमम 2 टन पर डे से शुरुआत होती है। 2 टन पर डे का जो बायोमास का प्लांट है, जिसमें 2 टन बायोमास पर डे यूज किया जाता है, और उसका जो प्रोडक्टिविटी है वो 50%, मतलब 1 टन ऑयल उससे बनाया जा सकता है। छोटे छोटे प्लांट हम बना सकते हैं कि जिसकी माध्यम से गांव में उद्योगों को हम खड़ा कर सकते हैं, बिजनेसों को खड़ा कर सकते हैं। जैसे आज डेयरी इंडस्ट्री में भारत के अंदर फैली हुई है, क्या हम इसी तरह से हमारे देश में लगने वाला पेट्रोल, डीजल, गैस सब कुछ बना सकते हैं? तो उसका उत्तर हाँ है। और बायोमास का जो पैरालिसिस ऑयल है उससे एलपीजी भी बनाया जा सकता है, उसकी कैटलिस्ट अवेलेबल है, उसकी प्रोसेस अवेलेबल है। तो हम रुके कहाँ हैं? हम रुके कहाँ हैं और हम आगे क्यों नहीं बढ़ रहे? तो मुझे शायद पता है कि जो क्वेश्चंस आपके पास आए रहेंगे, तो उसकी शुरुआत कैसे करनी है, कैसे हम आगे बढ़ेंगे, इसके बारे में आपके कई सारे क्वेश्चन रहेंगे। आप हमें संपर्क कर सकते हैं, हमें लिख सकते हैं, आपके पर्सनल क्वेश्चन का भी मैं जरूर जवाब दूंगा। लेकिन मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं, 2 टन का प्लांट भी इस समय रेडी है, इंडिया के अंदर रेडी है, जिसके अंदर आप बायोमास ड्राइड डालिए, उससे 1 टन ऑयल मिलेगा। और जो आपका क्रूड ऑयल है उसे रिफाइनरी भी आपसे बाय करेगी, जो पेट्रोलियम रिफाइनरीज है। फिलहाल हमारे पास ऐसे टाइप्स है कि जिससे हम कहते हैं हिंदुस्तान पेट्रोलियम, इंडियन ऑयल कॉर्पोरेशन, वो चाहते हैं कि बल्क में इस क्रूड ऑयल को उनके पास सप्लाई करने के लिए। तो मेरे दोस्तों, और आज वेबिनार के माध्यम से ये सब्जेक्ट इतना बड़ा है कि मैं आपसे क्या बातें करूंगा, क्योंकि सब्जेक्ट इतना बड़ा है कि 1 घंटा भी शायद मुझे बात करने के लिए पूरा नहीं आएगा। लेकिन मैं आपको संक्षिप्त में 1 मिनट के अंदर लास्ट में बताना चाहता हूँ। ये बायो ऑयल से हमने कपड़ा बनाया है, हमने इसमें से स्टील जैसा हार्ड, जिसे हम कहेंगे धातु, बनाए हैं। उसके बाद बायोमास से हमने कई सारे पॉलीमर्स बनाए हैं, प्लास्टिक्स बनाए हैं, जिसे हम बायोप्लास्टिक्स कहते हैं। ये बायोमास से हमने फ्यूल्स के सभी डेरिवेटिव्स बनाए हैं, जितने आज बाजार में ग्रीस से लेके एविएशन फ्यूल तक पूरी केमिस्ट्री रेडी है। अब बात है कि हमें उन युवकों की जरूरत है, उन नए न्यू इंडिया की जरूरत है जो सचमुच कुछ नया करना चाहते हैं। और आखिरी जाते जाते मैं आपको एक खाली एक इक्वेशन बताना चाहता हूं कि पूरे विश्व में आज की क्रूड की रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, भारत की रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है और हम क्या बना सकते हैं। और मेरा आज का ये वेबिनार यहाँ पे खत्म हो जाए। भारत को इस समय 5 मिलियन BBL बैरल लिटरल पर डे लगते हैं। 5 मिलियन बोले तो जस्ट 50 लाख के आसपास हो गया। ये हमारी क्रूड की रिक्वायरमेंट। पूरे विश्व की बात करें तो हम 100 मिलियन बैरल्स पर डे की बात कर सकते हैं, 195 कंट्रीज। यदि मैं पूरे देश के अंदर के किसानों को साथ में लेके अगर क्रॉप बनाऊं, प्योरली बायोमास का क्रॉप बनाऊं, तो हम हर दिन, मैं हर दिन की बात कर रहा हूं, हम हर दिन 170 मिलियन BBL बना सकते, बिलियन बैरल पर लीटर बना सकते। देखिए, दुनिया की रिक्वायरमेंट है 100 की, भारत की रिक्वायरमेंट है 5 की। यदि हम इस टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करके प्रोडक्शन करें तो पूरी दुनिया को भारत दे के भी भारत के पास ऑयल बचेगा। तो क्या हम आर्थिक महासत्ता नहीं बन सकते? यकीनन बन सकते हैं। बस हमें सही दिशा की, सही लोगों की और सही समय की इंतजार था, और मुझे लगता है वो समय आ गया है। और आप सभी को मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं कि मुझे यहाँ पे बोलने का मौका दिया मैडम ने और इनकी फाउंडेशन ने। और एक मैं हिंदुस्तानी होने के नाते मैं आप सभी को आग्रहपूर्वक हाथ जोड़ के विनम्र अभिवादन करना चाहता हूं। हमारे देश को आप जैसे युवकों की जरूरत है पूरा बदलाव लाने के लिए। भारत 5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी नहीं, भारत 50 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी बन सकता है, और एग्रीकल्चर ही एकमात्र उसका स्रोत है। इतना मैं कहता हूं। जय हिंद।
Very much for such a powerful address, and I totally endorse your comments and your views on the same. So the next I have with me Dr. Tushar Patil. Dr. Tushar Patil, I believe you also have one brief presentation with us, and then also we have a question from one of the participants for you, which I'm going to ask you after the presentation. So we can quickly run through your presentation. Vivek, could you please put his presentation on?
Good afternoon, and they have taken my load of explaining the agriculture into the renewables. So while discussing as a Praj Industries, you know that we are as a global leader in the biofuels from last 35 plus years, more than 750 biofuels. First, we need to understand what is the synergy, how renewables and agriculture is complementary to each other, and what is the impact of the technologies which are available presently, demonstrable and commercially viable, are available in the country to make the agriculture as a more powerful pillar for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Praj is doing constant work on this scenario, and I just want to highlight few things in specific on the agricultural development with the renewables. What are the challenges in agriculture and how technology can give the benefits to the agriculture? What are the different ways we have to see that how agriculture can be built as a renewable agriculture? And what is the impact? As already covered the supply chain model, Dr. Abhijit has covered the different products and technology available. Now I will just see that what is the practically possible things which required today as a India for the renewables to be get into the agriculture. Next slide, please. Is it visible?
Slide. Yeah.
So in the my slide is that it's not visible to me, but okay. in my next slide, I'm going to highlight that what is the correlation of the agriculture. If you see that agriculture is basically renewable, have a tie-up with the agricultural is, this is the carbon sink, this is the carbon utilization. This is the best carbon double bond. And it not only see that how the carbon is consumed and how the carbon is utilized, it is also giving the impact on climate. So if we fuse the agriculture with the renewables, and renewables can convert the agricultural surplus raw material into the biofuels, basically, this will address the most of the challenges what our agriculture community is facing today. So this agriculture is producing for as an energy for the living organism. Yes, biofuels is using that energy to move the transport. So there is a lot of synergy in this producing raw material for the biofuels. Yes, biofuels are consuming all raw material for the making the. Now, what are the produce coming out from this such process of producing biofuels that can be again going back into the field of farmers. So this is which are making the circular bioeconomy very effective. Now, if you see the impact of this renewable agriculture merger, there is a lot sharing in my last slide are going to give a major foundation for the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as Dr. Shirke also explained, this is an agricultural country. Sone ki chidiya thi. What we want to make it again a golden bird for the entire nation or world. These are the impacts which are going to be happen as additional income is going to be generated to the farmers. There is most of the jobs has been created at village level. There is a scope to address climate change. So all this will happen if we make a shake hand. And already as a Praj, we are doing a lot of work in the renewable biofuels, and we already done a lot of shake hands with the different states to set up 2G ethanol projects across India. And next slide, please. So in such sequence, if you see that how the impact and challenges of the technology are going to be happen with the agricultural community to get more self-sustainable. Our mission is to boost agriculture economy by applying the different technologies into their field. Now, if you see the challenge of the major renewable or agriculture community as a farming challenge, yes, drought, rain, why it is happening? Due to pollution, deforestation. Second one, assured price. Farmer is always requesting for get assured price and assured offtake. Why it is happening? Demand and production mismatches. There is a stubble burning, so ground clouding is formed. Less sources of additional income to the agricultural fields and employment. So if you see the second generation ethanol as a technology, we are addressing the climate as well as we are utilizing the surplus residue which left into the field that we call as infinity. That technology is converting entire agriculture residue into different forms, either sugar or biochemical, or it's in drop-in fuels or biofuels, which is going to be blended into the gasoline. As a byproduct, yes, there is a biofertilizer, there is a power. So 2G biorefinery is the major concept which we are now implementing with all oil marketing companies. Somebody has asked me that question also, that we are working with Indian Oil, HP, BP, MRPL, and setting up 4 projects in India which are having the 100 KL capacity. Now coming to the assured price with offtake of produce, grain, which is the main product of the farmer. So there is a surplus grain right now available in India. As godowns are not getting empty, government is not emphasizing more on the procurement of the grain. So we propose that grain to ethanol which is damage and surplus, this will boost again the farmers' economy as godowns are getting empty and utilized in proper manner for production of biofuels. New fresh stock will be procured and farmer will get assured income for long term. So grain to ethanol is one of the major what policy intervention has been published in last month, that surplus grain or damaged grain can be used for the production of ethanol. Now from the lignin, as whatever the leftover in the process can be developed into the marine biofuels. Then we also in the focus of say sugar based jet fuels. Coming to the small scale plants as it required now by the nation is the bio-CNG. To make a self-sustainable village, we really required a small-scale bio-CNG plants to be put across the potential clusters and make one cluster as a renewable cluster with the utilizing the agricultural residue and convert it into an energy hub. Same way with the biodiesel. So make agricultural plantations of the agricultural short gestation oil seeds, convert them into the biodiesel process. And if you see the global requirement, what Dr. Abhijit has explained, if we really do this model, somewhere we already implemented this model, for example, in Panipat, for example, or Bargarh, Odisha, we are doing with Batinda, Punjab and all. So these projects are really showing the prosperity, socio-economic development along with the agriculture and the employment generation, addressing not only the climate change, the saving import. My next slide, please. So in continuation with the technology development, and if these technologies which Praj has built and it's now worldwide available, and we commercially now showing the nation that these are the under Make in India, we can build a solid infrastructure for the agriculture. If we do the make self-sustainable energy villages, major is the biomobility is the weapon for the agriculture to build the entire agri-economy more than what the GDP today is showing. If we see the challenges, these all suggestions are going to address the farming challenges with the mobility by producing the different biofuels and consuming it inside the India only. No need to export it. We are having huge requirement. We are just blending 2.5%, 3.5% of ethanol, where we require 10% blending as per national biofuel policy. So there is a huge demand. If we make self-sustainable energy villages by creating all those fuels within the local periphery in small scale, then entire national demand will get sufficed with what the agricultural crop system can do. So new agricultural cropping system we need to incorporate, as there should be the intercropping, there should be the sweet sorghum plantation, there should be the bamboo plantation, grasses plantation. So every inch of the agricultural land, if we properly manage with the food, feed and fuel, 3 Fs, then with the weapon of biomobility or with the sheep of biomobility, definitely we are going to get a more and more stronger India as compared to the economics. Government support for the mechanization, yes, it is the requirement of the today's farming community. As Manishji already explained that biomass supply chain is the key, and if we convert it into mechanized farming, this is going to make more impact on sustainability of supply. As companies like Prespel, they are doing the biomass supply chain. Companies like Praj are ready with the all technology, engineering capabilities, as we are operating, having the references more than 75 countries to build such projects from say 6 KL to 1200 KL. For CBG, we are building the plants from the say 5 ton to 15 tons, 200 tons like capacity in different biodiesels. Then we are also producing 100 KL plants So this all is available today, and we are commercially now setting up all those plants for the different crop residues in different states. So my suggestion here is that if we educate the farmer, if we do the proper extension with the farming community with the help of state and agriculture universities, this will going to lead as a major pillar for the Atmanirbhar Bharat. If decentralized biofuel production clusters are come up into the Indian scenario, just like US, they are doing it, we can also do it within India, and we can match demand and supply. Use of biofuels in agri machinery, yes. Just example, if I produce the gas, CBG, if I produce the biodiesel within the small clusters, my entire agricultural machinery can be converted onto renewables. So biomobility is the major breakthrough which will give a major boost to make it again a circular bioeconomy. This will not only see from the broader perspective, but if you just see from the ground reality, if I use my engine with the CNG, if I use my cooking fuel with the CBG, if I convert my tractor on biodiesel and CBG, if I blend my waste with the ethanol, you can see the change. Decarbonization is the major link between the agricultural development and the renewables. If I calculate the numbers with the renewables which use the major agricultural crop residue or grain, I will create nearly 327 jobs in the rural India. More than 2 crores of farmers get benefited when I blend my gasoline with 20% of ethanol. More than 4,800 crores per annum income to the rural India. Additional income to the farmers, more than 18 crores. So this is the potential what we are having, and technology is ready. We are the EPC company offering entire thing. We build also some sanitizer technology recently for COVID, and we ask all entrepreneurs to come forward, make the sanitizer technology, adopt it, and get it for the supply to the department. So instead of say hypothetical statements, we believe on the practical solutions. We believe that how the farmer is going to get benefit with every application of technology into the agriculture. So making a circular bioeconomy is the key. And with these different technologies, either it's CBG, either it's 1G ethanol, 2G ethanol, this can be built into the smaller clusters and make it more economically viable solutions for the country. My next slide, please. So how the plant look like, if you see the entire, this is our 2G demonstration plant, which we have set up near the Pune. We are using all different agricultural crop residues. And this plant is producing say 3,000 liters per day capacity and 12 metric tons of dry biomass. This is one of the demonstrations. We are having the demonstration now for the CBG and 2G ethanol like this. We are now constructing the larger capacity plants for the PSUs. This in 2021, we are more confident that world will follow Raj Industries and definitely the India to adopt such models of starting from say biomass, agricultural economy to biofuel economy, a complete package they will request. And this is what the strength we built from last 35 years into the country. This strength is now getting reflected as we set up certain models into Panipat, certain models into Bargarh. So now farmers are coming forward. We are approached to the different farmer produce organizations and all. State government is supporting us, and with the inputs of say MNRE, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. These all government initiatives are very true and in the right directions to make India a self-sustainable and Atmanirbhar. So carbon credit is one mechanism which I want to highlight that farmers can get the credits into entire biomass to bioethanol or CBG production, and that carbon mechanism is also going to be established soon in India. So all the agriculture farming community, now it will not be the only agriculture producing, but it will be the industry as a renewable industry in the carbon chain. So with this, I would like to thanks, and if any questions are there, please put it on our email. And I would like to thank AgroVision also for giving us opportunity to present what Raj Industries as a global company in India in the last 35 years.
Thank you for such an informative presentation. I'm sure a lot of people will get insights from this, and I'm sure a lot of people are here to ask questions from you. So we will be taking some questions at the end of the program. So next, I would like to call Sanjay. Sorry, I would like to call Mr. Santosh Gondhalekar-ji. With your immense experience in this line, would you have any, what are your views on this particular subject? Or would you have any presentation to show? Santosh-ji, can you please unmute Santosh-ji? So I have his presentation ready. Vivek, please unmute him.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Audible?
Yes, you are audible. We have your presentation. Yes, sir.
Will you please show the presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Here, very much. So please go ahead. Vivek.
Yeah. At the outset, I am very thankful to AgroVision Foundation as well as the Indian Federation of Green Energy for providing me the opportunity to share our thoughts on renewable energy, specifically with reference to bioenergy. I'm not able to see the presentation. Is it?
So we see the presentation. Seems your bandwidth is quite low. This is the message that we are getting on your video. So maybe that's the reason you're not able to see your presentation, but you can go ahead. I'm sure you have your presentation with you right now.
Okay. Yeah.
On the slide. Second slide.
I just open mine. So we look at the agriculture or agriculture as a source of biomass, and we have developed the solutions which are specifically bioenergy, which are based on the biomass as a resource. When we say we develop the technology that biomass-based energy solutions, we feel that the solution should be satisfying at least 4 key criteria. And if the solution satisfies all these four criteria, then we can say it's a complete solution. The first criteria that we consider is it should be the technically feasibility. There should be a technical feasibility. So whatever fuels we produce, they should be running the same car, running the same vehicle, lighting up the same lamp. So whatever fuel we produce should be applicable directly into the market. The second criteria that we consider is economical viability. So it is not only the technology that effectively reaches the market. If only it is economically viable, then only the technology is adopted and accepted by the society. So for economical viability criteria, we consider that if the technology has a simple payback of say less than 3 years, and if whenever it is bankable, then only the technology will reach the market. So the third criteria that we consider is environmental sustainability. So in today's world, all this climate change, global warming, whatever solution we provide should be environmentally sustainable. That means it should reduce down the global warming and it should last long for next hundreds and thousands and millions of years. And the fourth critical criteria, specifically for the Indian context, is it should be socially acceptable. That means we want energy security without compromising food security, without compromising fodder security. Then only in the Indian context, the solution will be applicable. So we started our research about 15 years back, and today we are at a stage that the biomass-based energy solution that we developed satisfies all the four criteria. That is, it is technically feasible, it is economically viable, it is environmentally sustainable, and it is socially acceptable. In a short time, we'll see what does it mean. Next slide, please. Biomass-based agriculture solution में when we consider two aspects of agriculture, one is agro residue. That is, we can consider rice straw, wheat straw, cotton straw, soybean thrash, or almost any part of the plant or the whole plant which is readily available. We can consider it as a catch, because it is readily available in the market. Whereas, next slide please, there is another aspect of energy, which is we can consider it as a energy farming, that is culture part of it, of the energy solution. So here we can consider Napier grass or bamboo as a part of biomass, which is available, which can be grown on large quantity anywhere in the world. So and these two things can be grown on the large scale, and per acre per year the yields of dry waste, we can get about 20 to 40 tons of dry waste per acre per year. So when we say biomass based energy solution, we can consider a catch like rice straw, wheat straw, cotton straw, and all these straws, and or we can have a energy farming as a culture. So catch and culture together, I think we can definitely have a complete energy solution. Next slide, please. Bioenergy solution that we propose, effectively, it's an energy solution, and it's a direct competition with the fossil fuels. So whenever we feel that when the substitution, we should have 100% substitution to all fossil fuels. What are these fossil fuels? We use petrol and diesel as a part of transportation fuel. We use coal, fuel oil, and LDO to generate power and to have a heat energy. And also in the domestic market, we use LPG and kerosene as a domestic fuel or cooking fuel. So if using the conventional biomass, the agro residue, if we can 100% substitute these fossil fuels as is there, like if we can substitute petrol, diesel, LPG, kerosene, and coal, then only our solutions, we can say, would be effectively real solution in the market. So let us see whether it is all possible. Next slide, please. Agrogas. I'll directly jump on to the solution that we have developed. This is the technology that we have developed, is agrogas based technology. Agrogas is nothing but bio-CNG. Agrogas is our brand, and what we have developed is a bio-CNG. Next slide, please. Where we have developed the second generation bio-CNG. In the conventional method, where we use the first generation biofuel, that is when we use sugar, starch, protein, fats, there is always a competition of food and fuel within the energy sector. So we want to use lignocellulosic biomass, which is neither used as a food nor as a fodder technically. And so if we can use the lignocellulosic biomass, that is lignin and cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, then whatever fuels we produce is called second generation biofuels. So here in agrogas technology, we are using lignocellulosic material as a feedstock. What we do actually, it is we can say it is a similar, something which is similar to gobar gas technology, the cow dung based gobar gas technology. But here what we have developed is a dungless, cowless, but gobar gas technology. So we use the same raw material, we shred it and feed it to the microbes, the microbial culture that we have produced. And within a single day, we get the biogas as output. So we get this biogas जो output मिलता है is composed of about 50 to 55% methane, about 45 to 50% of CO2. So we do scrub this biogas and purify to it to 96% purity of methane. That effectively will satisfy IS 16087. And then the purified biomethane, we compress it at 220 bar and directly fill into the vehicle, and we could run the vehicles. Next slide, please. कनेक्टिविटी के लिए करनी सब लोग होते हैं.
Yes, so we can see your next slide, please.
Yeah. So about 3 years back, we actually installed the first bio-CNG filling station in the country. We received the first license from Chief Controller of Explosive, and Honorable Nitinji Gadkari and Manohar Parrikar formally inaugurated our plant. On that day, we also ran a car, and next slide, also we ran a bus. And since then, in last
I think he lost his audio. Santoshji? Santoshji? Okay, I think we'll move on to the next panelist. I think he has lost his audio. So Mr. Sanjay Ganju, who's the Director General of IFG, may I now request you to please share your views and your suggestions on the topic, please. Could you please, Mr. Ganju?
Sorry. Thank you, Vibha, and thank you, Agro Foundation and Raviji for giving us this opportunity to collaborate and work on this conference on webinar on bioenergy. I think Santoshji is back. Shall I think there's some problem with it. So, giving us this opportunity to discuss this issue of renewable energy in agriculture. Santoshji wants to
trying to say something.
Yeah.
Santoshji, we can't hear you. Is he unmuted, Vivek?
His audio device is not connected. Only video is working.
Okay, Santoshji, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. You'll need to connect to your audio. Not able to listen.
I think Sanjay ji can continue and somebody can call him on the mobile to just tell him.
Yeah. So thank you, and thank you all panelists who have joined this conference, particularly Munish. Colonel Munish is always forthcoming and he shares his views on this sector. Mr. Oja, Mr. Shirke, everybody who participated in Santosh for sharing their views. These days we have a lot of talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat, which Pradhan Mantri ji recently announced. But unfortunately, what has happened, Atmanirbhar Bharat, which was once upon a time, practically visible in our hinterland, in our rural areas, we made it Videsh Nirbhar Bharat. And when we talk about energy, most of the energy consumed in rural areas, in fact, all of the energy which was consumed in rural areas was produced locally. I can draw your attention to a small, thing we used to run our mills in food processing mills in rural areas, जिसको गरट कहते हैं, by using a simple hydro-based technology. Our kitchens were fueled by agri-waste. Even kettle energy was used, when you, in many parts of the country, when you had to pull out water from wells. So instead of improving on that, instead of making those technologies more efficient, so what we did is we just, imported fossil fuels from abroad, and exploited our coal reserves and supplied the energy produced from those sources to rural areas. Though Mahatma Gandhi was loud about self-sustaining model of village, the Atmanirbhar Bharat he used to talk about during his time. Many other thinkers in India, for example, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, they were also talking about this kind of a model, but unfortunately we were more motivated or inspired by West, so that is why we moved out of that self-sustaining model to a totally dependent model.
Yes, Vivek.
So we had different panelists today who talked about what is possible from the rural India, from the village India, how energy, besides food requirements of the country, besides requirements of the country, even the textile requirements of the country, even any requirement of the country which comes from the rural area, energy requirement of the country can also be taken care of by the village. So I'll not, discuss. I'll not take much of your time. What I feel is that government has to work on a model where we need to empower our own people, and we need to empower our rural areas, our villagers, our farmers, so that they focus on such technologies which can convert their local produce into gold. Monish has been talking about that. Abhijit ji has been talking about that. Even Praj has developed solutions in terms of practical solutions, how that can be converted and used for different types of energy. So we need to focus more on such technologies. We need to focus more on such solutions so that we can create value for the farmer. We can become Atmanirbhar, and there is a bit of movement in that direction from the government. There are many different schemes which now government is focusing on, creating local opportunities for farmers by using renewable energy. For example, Kusum scheme, which has been developed for farmers to use for their pumps. But there are many gaps which we need to fill. We have a huge reserve of crop residues, around 600 million tons per year. So that can itself cater to 17% of India's primary energy consumption. There are many areas, in fact, in rural areas where we cannot get the direct supply. In fact, the cost of supplying electricity from the grid is more expensive in those areas. So we can, think of these models which can, make energy available to them off grid, and so they can take benefit of this. So what I somehow feel is that research institutes in India need to focus more on developing technologies, though private sector is also doing its bit. But government has to focus more on developing such technologies, which will be ultimately helpful to farm community, which will be helpful to the rural areas of India, villages, to produce such opportunities which can ultimately generate electricity, generate biofuel, generate other energy avenues locally and we can ultimately move to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you once again, Vibha. So I think if you have any questions, we'll take it later. Thank you.
Very much. We have tons of questions now. I'll quickly call out names so that they can ask the question. So Vivek, please help me unmuting them. So I would like to invite Mr. Gulshan Chadha. Can you please unmute Mr. Gulshan Chadha? Mr. Gulshan Chadha has posted, I think, 4-5 questions here for Lieutenant Colonel Monish. So, Vivek, can you see Mr. Gulshan Chadha? If you can unmute him, please.
Gulshan Chadha.
Yes. Just a second, please. Just a second. I'm Gulshan. I'm Colonel Monish's regimental and unit officer only, but somehow I have to ask the question here. Colonel Monish, I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
In the Himalayan, sub-Himalayan region, I mean, the stocks are very small, whether it is of the buckwheat, wheat, rice, or anything else, any other crop which you see there, because they are dwarf varieties of the crops. So is it possible, is it economically viable to do something like this also in those areas?
So the answer is yes, you can, because you can go down to utilization as low as outputs of 1 metric ton per hour. There are technologies also to do compression smaller than that. If you see the program of the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is the cook stove program, linked with pellets to be done. So there are energy efficient smokeless cook stoves now available for utilizing these pellets. And at a community level, the kind of quantity of biomass that you are saying, community level pelleting is being done. So there are many companies working in this space, and these decentralized models for hamlets, for villages are all being done. If you look at a larger scale project, on a hub and spoke model, what you intend to do or what you're referring to can be a spoke to feed into the hub. So that is also possible to do. So in Prespel, we have 2 programs. One is the village level entrepreneur, which I mentioned, where the village level entrepreneur is supported by us to bring the agricultural residue to the depot or the collection center. The second is the CP, the channel partner program, where we support the channel partner to set up this micro or small industry for densification of this biomass and provide 100% offtake market. So you can do it decentralized and need not worry about selling the product. We take the entire product from you at a price. And since we do this, the formal banking finance is available to the channel partner.
Right. The second part of my question partly is already answered.
One question, sir. Please restrict to one question. We have a lot of other people who are asking.
Right.
If we have time, I'll come back to you.
I'll talk to you separately. We'll have a conversation.
Thank you. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vibha.
Thank you very much, sir. Vivek, can you please unmute Mr. Rajan, please? Okay, it's not visible to us. So then, Mr. Chitran Devnath. Mr. Devnath?
Yeah.
Yes, please introduce and ask the question. Mr. Devnath?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Dev. Introduce yourself and ask the question.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am from Mumbai. This is regarding the lecture given by Colonel Ahuja on the use of biomass. One point is coming to my mind. The point is the implementation. The implementation and the progress of the biomass industry is largely, to my mind, is depend upon the support we are getting from the supporting system, like state government and central, in terms of the impressing upon the industries who are the ultimate user of the fossil fuel or biomass per se. The experience, my experience has been that that there is a less amount of pressure, or less amount of the pressure from the administration, state or central, to make the industries agree that here is the time you have to convert to biomass rather than using the fossil fuel. So, in the journey of the content of the lecture, I have gone through Mr. Ahuja while speaking. I just wanted to know his experience in this regard. If he can share us that experience for the benefit of everybody, to what extent the support we are getting. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Debnath, and it's a very pertinent question. Pertinent because as a policy, we do not have a central and then a state government policy in sync towards each of the biofuel industry. We heard Mr. Oja earlier in the day to say that UP government is providing some support to industries in two aspects, biocoal, and he mentioned something about the compressed biogas now. The holistic policy of support additionally to the farming community or industries linked to the farming community need to come out. And the problem statement starts with the center, because there are many ministries which are custodian of the bioenergy sector. So there is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, there is Ministry of Petroleum on the biofuel side. You have Department of Biotechnology, DBT, which looks at technology development. You have Ministry of Agriculture, because the agri residues, Ministry of Rural Development. And lastly, because of the rampant burning in the fields, which we see predominantly in North India, you have Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change also involved. So with so many stakeholders, actually it's a baby which has no parentage to look at. So what is crucial is a centralized ministry or department to look at it, both at the center and state level. Secondly, now with the push that the recent announcements also for agri-based industries to come up, and NABARD has been made the nodal agency, it's the right time for such kind of policy document to come out, so that the agency like NABARD can be approached by multiple farmer cooperatives, companies like ours, to take this ahead. The third point is the advocacy or understanding is still not there. While the industry and you see the people on the panel here are doing work, the understanding at the local level, the district level or the state levels is still rudimentary. So some work needs to be done there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll take the last two questions now. So we have Arpit Verma. I believe he is a student and he has some questions for the panelists. Arpit Verma, can you hear us?
Listen, my voice.
Yes, we can hear you. Please ask your question and introduce yourself. So I'll just ask his question. He says that he's a student of mechanical engineering and he has an experience in biomass power plant. And he says he's also unemployed. He just wants to know that he has a land in Madhya Pradesh across 4 to 5 acres. And he wants to know whether he can use that land for renewable sources. Who would like to answer? Santosh, aap iska? Santosh.
Yes, yes. I can share. any farmer which has a land, definitely he can do the energy farming. And grass can be grown on any of the land, or bamboo can also be grown. And but there has to be a application available nearby. If so, any farm, maybe 1 acre, 2 acre, or 5 acre, if you go grow grass like Napier grass, you can get the yield of about 20 to 40 tons of dry weight per acre per year, and you can fetch about 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees per acre a year as a surplus. So by growing biomass and energy farming would be the new way of harvesting energy in our fields. So it is all possible now. And once we have a biomass, it can be converted into briquettes, locally pellets, definitely. I think Mr. Colonel Ahuja would purchase all your biomass at cost and convert it into briquettes and sell it to industries. So you need not have your briquetting machine. You have to grow grass and grow biomass. And there are so many players who would purchase all this biomass and supply to appropriate industry where they will use this biomass as an energy source.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll support
Last
you.
question.
You whatever you want to do, either as a VLE or a CP, either or. Please write to us. Somebody from my office will get in touch. They'll give you all the documentation. Go through it. If it makes sense, definitely you can start a small-scale industry over there.
We'll share all the email addresses of panelists if you wish, and then maybe you can write to them directly. So I have last question. I have seen Mr. Toshniwal is making a lot of comments and he has a lot of suggestions. So Mr. Toshniwal, what is your question? And if you could also quickly introduce yourself. Ashok Toshniwal.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ashok Toshniwal. And I'm from Bangalore.
A bit louder, we can't hear. Please speak a bit louder.
Good afternoon, my name is Ashok Toshniwal. I'm from Bangalore. I have few details. One specific question is the calorific value of the biomass of the bio-CNG proposed as a fuel by agro.
Sorry, I have voice is not. We really cannot understand what you're saying. Could you please, maybe you can write to us later and we can take your question later because your voice is not at all audible. Arpit, could you please mute your mic? Okay, so I quickly Mr. Sanjay Ganju for his closing remarks. Mr. Ganju.
Thank you, Uba. I think it was a very nice interaction. So we had policymakers. Oja Saab was there. I thank him for joining us. We had technology developers. We had supply chain, companies, and also those who are passionate about this sector and who believe that this can be a game changer for India's economy, like Mr. Shirke. So I thank all speakers, including Mr. Oja, Mr. Manish Oja, Santosh Gondlekar ji, a good friend, Dr. Tushar Patil from Praj, Abhishek Shirke ji, and all other participants who were here today. So, in fact, at some point of time, we had more than 300 participants. So they were keen to listen to this important webinar. So thank you all for participating. Again, thanks my friend Viji and Vibha for making this happen. So I'm sure we will have many more such interesting sessions in future, and we'll take this forward and ultimately achieve this vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which has now evolved, and Pradhan Mantri ji is talking about that. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you, and I would like to inform all our participants that they write to us at agrovision@agrovision.in for all their queries. We'll try our best to revert to them with all their questions. And lastly, I would like to thank all our panelists for their excellent insights and our wonderful participants for joining this webinar. And like I said, you can send us all the questions. We'll compile all the questions and prepare a resource paper. And the same can then be, will be uploaded on our AgroVision website. So you can just refer to that paper and get all the answers from there. So thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Baratkar. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you, Mr. Ganju.
Yeah, thanks.